Night 3. The headache started on night 2. Now, it's something else. A thick, solid pressure behind my eyes, pulsing in time with my heartbeat. It feels less like a headache and more like my skull is trying to unmake itself from the inside. I was at my desk, staring at an incident report until the letters bled together, when Nika's father shouldered his way into the station. His daughter, Nika, was a silent shadow behind him, her small face far too serious. "Harper," heaving the cooler onto the break room table with a wet thud. 40 pounds of silver salmon, for saving my girl. I stood, the motion sending a fresh, hot spike through my temples. That's too much. I was just doing my job. My objection died as Nika's voice, small but impossibly clear, cut through the station's low hum. "Auntie showed me where to wait," she said. "She said someone would come before the bad thing did." Then the studio went silent. One moment, there was the familiar clutter and noise. Chief Morrison's low chuckle, the clack of Dale's keyboard, the static hiss of the radio. The next, there was nothing. It was as if a glass bell had dropped over the entire room. Morrison was frozen, his coffee cup an inch from his lips. Dale's hand hovered over his mouse, his fingers poised but unmoving. The radio static didn't just go quiet. The absence of it was a physical weight in the air. My gaze dropped to Nika. Her dark eyes were fixed on me, and they held a knowledge that had no business in the face of an 8-year-old. They were ancient and terrified. A full 3 seconds passed. The pressure in my head tightened. Then, the world rushed back in, too loud and too fast. Morrison let out a sharp, forced laugh. "Nika, honey, you know Auntie. She's everyone's friend. She's probably just praying for you, is all." He took a sip of his coffee. "Right," Dale chimed in, his voice a notch too high. He clicked his mouse with unnecessary force. "Kid, Auntie's got a sixth sense about these things, like a guardian angel." He laid a heavy hand on his daughter's head, his smile tight. "Do not go giving the officer your wild stories, Inyuk." But Nika did not look away from me. She didn't even blink. "Have you seen her since that night?" she asked. The silence returned, but this time it felt deliberate. A solid wall. "Hey," I said, my voice sounding too loud. No one turned. I forced a chuckle. "Morrison? Dale?" I waved a hand in front of the chief's face. His eyes didn't flicker. He took another sip of coffee, staring right through me. My chuckle died in my throat. The truth, cold and absolute, settled in my gut. Nika was the only one who could see me. The throbbing in my skull intensified, a sudden, vicious twist. "I see her all the time," I managed, my voice rough. "She helps with dispatch once in a while, Nika." No, her voice was flat, certain. A verdict. "Have you really looked at her? I mean, truly looked? Once you do, you'll know what I mean." He was already pulling her towards the door, his apologies trailing behind him. Kids and their imaginations. "You know how it is. Thanks again for everything, Harper." The door clicked shut. Instantly, the station snapped back to life. The clatter of keyboards, the murmur of conversation, the rustle of paperwork. It was all there. But it was wrong. It was like watching a film where the audio is out of sync. A hollow performance. And I was the only one who had missed their cue. I stood, rooted to the spot, staring at the dark plastic cooler beaded with cold water. And a cold, solid thought formed in my mind, cutting through the pain. What does Auntie look like? I see her every day. I take my coffee when she tells me to. I nod at her updates over the radio, but I cannot for the life of me summon a single specific detail of her face. Not the curve of her smile, not the shape of her hands, not the way she moves through a room. It's all just a pleasant blur. I spend my lunch break in the basement archives. Down here, the world is reduced to the grit of dust on my fingertips and the dry whisper of turning pages. When my phone lights up with my wife's call, I watch the screen go dark. Everything else can wait. Everything else is noise. The station's records go back to 1962, when the formal SAR program was established. Before that, it's just scattered reports in the municipal building's library annex. I start with the recent files. Paul Auntie's employment records from 2020. And there she is. Photo ID clipped to a W2. Same Auntie. Grey hair pulled back. Reading glasses on a beaded chain. Warm smile. Date of birth, March 15th, 1960. Another form. Employee health insurance enrollment. Same photo. Maybe a few less wrinkles. Date of birth, March 15th, 1960. Pension paperwork. Date of birth, March 15th, 1960. Original hiring documentation. The photo is slightly faded, but it's her. Same face, same smile. Date of birth, March 15th, 1960. I flip back and forth between the photos. The lighting is different, the backgrounds change, but her face stays exactly the same. And the age is the same in every single image across 30 years. The headache is an ice pick now, driving into my frontal lobe with every heartbeat. I drive to the library and request historical records, search and rescue reports, anything from the region. The librarian, an elder named Margaret, peers at me over her glasses. That's quite a project. What are you hoping to find? I just need to understand the history, I say, my voice tight. My phone buzzes in my pocket. Again, I know it's her. I know I'm stressing her out, but the thought is a distant thing, drowned out by the static in my head. I have days, maybe less. This takes precedence. Everything takes precedence. She brings me photo albums, community newsletters, newspaper clippings. 1956, a group photo. Volunteers after a successful rescue. In the back row, partially obscured, Auntie. Same grey hair, same glasses. 1968, a dedication ceremony for the new station. In the crowd, Auntie. 1987, a wartime civil defense meeting. The photo's grainy, black and white, but I can make out her silhouette in the second row. Margaret leans in to look, her pleasant librarian smile still in place. It doesn't waver as her eyes track Auntie's face across the decades. She doesn't startle or question, she simply nods, as if confirming a known fact. That's Auntie in all of them, isn't it? She murmurs. Funny how some folk just have that timeless quality. My mouth's dry. How old is she? Oh, you know elders. Margaret pats my shoulder, her touch making me flinch. It's rude to ask. Why do you want to know? She adds. Because it doesn't make sense. The words scream inside my skull. Because I want to hold these photos side by side and force you to see that the same woman is in a photo from 1952 and a report from last year. Because everyone is blind when they look at her. Instead, I say, just curious. Margaret's smile doesn't reach her eyes. Curiosity is good, Ben. But some things out here, they don't want to be understood. They just want to be. She walks away before I can ask what that means. I make it home at 6 p.m. with the headache drilling so deep I'm seeing halos around every light source. Sarah's waiting in the kitchen, arms crossed. Jaw set in that way means we're about to have the same fight we've been having for 3 months. You missed dinner again. I was working. You're always working. She's crying now. Angry tears. When you're here, you're not here, Ben. You're somewhere else. With her. With who? Denise. The secretary. Don't play stupid. Everyone at the station talks. Sarah, I'm not. Then where were you today? Dale saw you in the archives for 2 hours. Said you looked like you were researching something intense. What were you researching, Ben? I don't have a good answer. Can't explain that I was looking up photos of a 70-something dispatch operator who apparently hasn't aged since World War II. Can't explain that an 8-year-old girl warned me about a woman who's hypnotized the goddamn town. Can't explain any of it without sounding insane. So I say nothing. Sarah's face crumples. Get out. Sarah, get out. Go. Stay with whoever you've been running to. I don't care anymore. She's shoving my jacket at me, pushing me towards the door. I grab my keys off the hook and stumble into the cold without a plan. I sit in my truck in the driveway, engine running, heat blasting. The station has a bunk room, but Dale's probably there. I have no friends in this town. Not really. Just co-workers and acquaintances. I could drive to Fairbanks, get a hotel, clear my head. Instead, I put the truck in reverse. And that is when I see it. A warm, golden light spills from the kitchen window. The silhouette of my wife moves past the sink, and the sound hits me. It's not the quiet I left, but the vibrant noise of a family meal. The clatter of plates, my son's high-pitched story, my daughter's giggling interruption, and underneath it all, a man's easy, resonant laugh. My laugh. I kill the engine and step out into the freezing air, drawn to the window like a ghost. I peer inside. There they are. Sarah, the kids, and me. They're gathered around the table. The man at the head of the table leans back in his chair, a wide, relaxed smile on his face. It's an expression I haven't worn in years. He says something and Sarah laughs. A real, unforced laugh, and reaches out to squeeze his arm. I'm running before I know I've moved, up the porch steps, through the door, which is unlocked. The sounds and smell of dinner, pot roast, my favourite, wash over me. I stand frozen in the hallway entrance, watching this perfect imitation of my life. Get out, I whisper. The words have no force. The man, the other me, turns his head. His eyes meet mine across the room, and he smiles. A slow, knowing smile. The room shifts. Suddenly, I'm the one sitting at the head of the table. The taste of pot roast is in my mouth. My daughter tugs on my sleeve, and Sarah smiles at me from across the table. I try to stand, to scream, but my body's a puppet. I feel my face form a warm, paternal smile. I hear my own voice, but it's not mine, say, "This is perfect." My eyes dart to the dark glass at the patio door. In the reflection, I see it. Standing in the corner of the kitchen, watching. The walker. It wears my SAR coat. Its face a smudged photograph. It tilts its head, and my reflection in the glass mimics the gesture. Sarah's smile becomes fixed, her gaze intensifying. "We're so glad you're finally here, Ben," she says, her voice syrupy and wrong. "Stay with us." I throw myself backward, the chair clattering to the floor. I scramble on hands and knees towards the front door as their voices rise in a harmonious, desperate choir. Ben, don't go. Ben, we love you. Ben, your dinner's getting cold. I stumble into the truck, slam the locks, and force myself to look back. They're all at the kitchen window now, Sarah and the kids. They stand in a row, staring out at me with identical, placid, vacant smiles. The drive to Auntie's cabin is a blur. My body operating on an autopilot my mind can no longer sustain. By the time I park, the clock reads 9 p.m. The headache is no longer just pain, it's begun to feel like static. A soft glow came from inside her cabin. I staggered to the door, my legs uneasy. It swung inward before my fists could connect. And there, standing in the threshold, I finally saw her. The flush in her cheeks is wrong. Too red, like old meat. Her body is too thin beneath her house dress, bones pressing against skin that's lost its elasticity. When she smiles, her lips pull back too far, showing too many teeth. Benjamin. Her voice is the same warm rasp. Are you alright? I tried to run, tried to get back to the truck. But she's there. Hand on my shoulder, impossibly fast. Shh, child. Come inside. You're seeing things, aren't you? The walkers do that. They get in your head. Make you doubt what's real. She guides me towards the door with surprising strength. But I can help. Come have tea. We'll talk. I don't want to go inside. But the headache is so bad I can barely stand, and her cabin is warm. She's the only person who's acknowledged that any of this is happening. I followed her inside, the door closing behind me with a soft, final click. The cabin felt smaller than I remembered, and darker, as if the walls had crept inward to swallow the light. I noticed the shadows in the corners didn't behave properly, stretching and pulling in defiance of the single oil lamp that burned on the counter. Without a word, Auntie guided me to a kitchen table, her hand on my arm as she directed me into a chair. She moved to the stove to put a kettle on, her motions possessing a fluid, unnerving grace that belonged to someone decades younger. You're on night 3, she says, not a question. The middle point. That's when it gets worst. Your mind is trying to bridge two states of being. Warm and cold, living and... She trails off, pours tea into mismatched mugs. I wrap my hands around the mug. The ceramic is cold, despite the steaming liquid inside. Why is this happening to me? My voice sounds distant. Because you looked. She sits across from me. And because you saved the girl. Nika. Yes. Something flickers across Auntie's face. Almost regret. Almost. She wasn't supposed to come back, Benjamin. Some accounts are meant to close. What does that mean? She sips her tea. Would you like to hear a story? An old one. About the ocean and sacrifice and the price of living too long. I nod because I don't know what else to do. Because the cabin feels like it's pressing down on me. Because I can feel something in the corners, waiting. Auntie's voice drops to a storyteller's cadence. There was once a woman who refused to marry. Her father tried everything. Arranged matches with strong hunters, wealthy traders, even shamans. But she refused them all. She had no interest in men. The tea tastes like salt water. One winter, she fell in love with her dog. A beautiful animal, strong and loyal. They say she loved it more than anything human. When her father discovered this, he was filled with shame. He took her out in his kayak, far from shore, and threw her into the ice water to drown. I want to put down the mug, but my hands won't move. She tried to climb back into the kayak, grabbed the gunwala, begged her father to pull her up, but he took his ulu and cut off her fingers, one by one. Each finger that fell into the water became something new. Seals, whales, all the creatures of the deep. And the woman herself sank down to become Sedna, the mother of the sea, the keeper of drowned things. Auntie's voice has changed, become layered, like multiple people speaking in unison. But here's the part they don't tell children. Sedna didn't just become a goddess, she became hungry. Every finger she lost was a piece of warmth taken from the living world. And to keep existing, to keep her place in the deep, she needs to replace that warmth again and again, forever. My vision's tunneling. The cabin walls seem to breathe. We all make choices, Benjamin. Some of us choose to drown, some of us choose to cut the fingers. Some of us, she leans forward, and her face is changing, cheeks hollowing further, skin pulling tighter against skull. Some of us choose to feed. In the window behind her, I see them. Walkers. 3 of them, standing perfectly still, watching. I tried to stand, but my legs are numb. Tried to speak, but my tongue is thick. Auntie reaches across the table, touches my hand with her cold hands. I'm sorry, Benjamin, but you understand, don't you? A child's life buys more than an adult's. More years, more warmth. But you saved her. You broke the equation. So now, I need yours. She's holding a curved knife with a bone handle. I try to move, but my body's leaden, and a cold understanding dawns. I know what she's put in my drink. It won't hurt. The cold comes fast at this stage. You'll just stop, and I'll have 17 more winters, maybe less. I'm not as young as I used to be. She laughs, and it sounds like wind through empty buildings. Though I suppose 7 centuries is a good run. The walkers in the window are inside now, standing behind my chair. I can feel them, radiating cold. Auntie raises the knife, and in that suspended moment, a fractured memory crashes over me. It comes in a flash. A woman is screaming, running desperately through deep snow with a mob at her heels. Their torches cutting through the darkness as voices shout witch, demon, unclean. She stumbles and falls, and someone catches her, holding her down while another brings the ulu to her face. The blade cuts from cheek to jaw, and she's screaming a name, over and over, in a desperate, pleading mantra. Akna, Akna, Akna. I shout the name without thinking, a raw cry that tears from my throat. Akna! The effect is instantaneous. Auntie recoils as if I've struck her, and the knife clatters to the floor. Light pours through the window. Not moonlight, not aurora, something older. It illuminates Auntie in a harsh relief, and I see what she truly is. The centuries of borrowed time written in the spaces between her cells. The hollow where her humanity used to be. The scar on her cheek, never healed. The walkers behind me scatter, simply cease to exist, like smoke in the wind. Auntie, Akna, crouches away from the light, making sounds that aren't quite words. It's giving me a chance. I run. I burst out the door and into the suffocating snow, my truck keys already clutched in my hand as if they'd materialized there. The engine roared to life on the first try, a miracle or some other form of interference. I didn't know, and I didn't care. It wasn't until I was half a mile down the road, the tires crunching on the packed snow, that I dared to glance into the rearview mirror. Her cabin sat dark and silent, a solitary stain against the vast white expanse. But in the single window, I could see her, a stark silhouette, standing perfectly still, watching me flee. She was waiting.